What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Lightweight Pregamers, a fantasy football podcast on the Pregame HQ. Tonight on the agenda, one of my favorite things going on in the NFL right now, the coaching carousel roaming around the NFL. We're going to talk about the landscape, how it changes for the NFL and for fantasy. But as always, I cannot do this by myself. And back by popular demand, two of our great writers over at the Pregame HQ, Charles and Matt. How we doing, gents?
I'm doing great, man. I'm sitting here on my private jet, just waiting. We're flying down the Bahamas, getting away from all that cold air.
I'm glad we got to get some time out of your busy day, man. I mean, when are you going to invite us up there?
Hey, it's just hit me up offline,
They call VIC very important, Charles, over here. Matt, how we doing?
Doing good, everybody. It's hard to believe it's already been over a week since the Super Bowl. Not gonna lie, I had some NFL withdrawals this last weekend, so I'm ready to sit down and talk some NFL already. I'm missing it.
Oh no, I totally agree. It's the weirdest thing to have this little lull going on with. We're not sure what's going on, but at least we got something to talk about and something to kind of get hyped for on this one. So slow news week in between from the Super Bowl to now. No big trades went down like we were expecting, but they're on the horizon. I'm sure we can see. But so let's just jump right into the deep end of this one. Talk about the coaching changes going on. We had the Lions, the Jags, the Falcons, the Eagles, the Jets, the Chargers, the Texans, all found their new coaches there. So I want to talk about a couple of things. The most surprising and the most necessary moves that we saw so far in the NFL. Matt, let's start with you over here, bud.
So before I get to my most surprising guy who actually got hired, I got to highlight something real quick. I have no clue in the world how Eric Bieniemy continues to not get hired as a head coach. Holy smokes. I mean, he's leading one of the most dominating offenses we've seen in some time, and somehow he gets passed up year after year. I mean, take a look at two of Andy Reid's most recent offensive coordinators before Bieniemy, Matt Nagy and Doug Peterson. Both, got hired like right away after their first couple seasons there, first season. Both got head coaching jobs, and look at them now. I mean, I think that you could argue that Bieniemy would be more successful than you've seen from those guys, so it's just, you can argue that, he got Patrick Mahomes and an elite offense right off the gate, in his first year, but I don't think that should be enough to, prevent the guy from getting the job. But looking at guys who actually got hired, I mean, you look at Dan Campbell. I got to go to Detroit. Outside of the fact that he likes to bite kneecaps, what more do we know about this guy,
baby?
Yeah. What do we know to expect from this guy? You have no clue. He has this career as a tight ends coach, an assistant head coach, and a minor stint as the Dolphins interim head coach. So how do you know what to expect from this guy and from this offense? We just don't know what to expect. Now, does that to say that he's going to be a bad head coach? Not necessarily. We don't know enough about this, but it's just, It's very surprising to see him in that position. When his name first came up for the job, I was like, okay.
No, I totally agree with that. It's definitely an odd one of them, and definitely talking about with Melanie over there from the Chiefs. He's definitely a tough one to read. I think a lot of teams are starting to try to hire as fast as they can to get that new hotness in between there. So I think that he's been a victim of that circumstance and everything. But yeah, Dan Campbell is definitely an intriguing hiring there. So we'll see what happens. I could assume the run game is going to be one of their biggest assets to be acclimated there. But yeah, going forward, Charles, we'll take you away from your caviar and champagne real quick. What's your thought on that hire, and who's your biggest surprise and your most necessary one?
Well, obviously, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Adam Gase was the most necessary firing, and Bill O'Brien as well. Like that, I think that everyone's going to agree with that one. But on the flip side, I was talking about Eric Bieniemy. My biggest, it's like it reminds me of a sketch back in the day, back when it just used to be YouTube sketches that we'd all watch, in our college dorm rooms, by a Harvard sailing team. And one of the quotes was like, "Would you rather suck and win like 1 million championships, or be really awesome and be on a suck team?" And the answer is, I'd rather suck and win like 1 million championships. And that's the thing with Eric Bieniemy. He's in a spot right now that no other coach out there has. I mean, it's a low pressure environment because Andy Reid is, the top dog. Patrick Mahomes is out there taking all the pressure off of him. That's why I think Eric Bieniemy, he's happy. And you know what? And maybe his family's happy in Kansas City. And if mom is happy, you're happy. Why take the added stress on? Maybe in like 5 years he bounces, but I don't think Eric Bieniemy is going to be. I think he deserves a head coaching job. Period. Dot. But I don't think he really wants to leave right now. But my most surprising firing, personally, was Anthony Lynn. Out in with the Chargers. Like, yes, granted, he made some buffoon calls, in games, but he's a brand new head coach. Going into year 4 with a brand new quarterback, installing a completely, like, you have to figure out what's going to happen. It's like they didn't even have him starting. Losing my earbud here, but that's all right. I mean, Tyrod Taylor was their starting quarterback for the first couple of games, and Herbert. It's like, if not for a clumsy doctor, Herbert's sitting on the bench. But for him to bring in a rookie quarterback to go 7-9, an improvement on last year's record, I believe 4-12, is like every year his team finished in the top 11 of total yards. Like, I think flipping it around, going back to Dan Campbell with Detroit, them bringing on Anthony Lynn to that staff is going to be proved very beneficial for them. And NCDC is going to happen, baby. So.
No, I think that's definitely an interesting one without you. Anthony Lynn was definitely one of the more surprising fires. I thought he was in the hot seat, but I thought they gave him a little more time. Yeah. But when you think about the coaching decisions that he made, I think that's what got him fired. His poor clock management, his inability to want to go to Herbert right away. When he's definitely one showing it through. And I love that he's like a team player wanting to like back his quarterback 100% with Tyrod, told him he's going to be the starter. But at the same time, when you got a guy like Herbert who showed out even in like the training camp there, he might just be able to pivot and switch. Maybe that's what got him fired prematurely, in my opinion. But to kind of build off there, I mean, one of our surprising hires, not really too surprised when it comes to like all the hype around it, but Urban Meyers was definitely one of the ones I was surprised, and I want to see what he's going to do with the team because he's kind of walking into a great situation, one of the best coaching spots that you could have had with a rebuilding setup, number 1 draft pick, all the cap space in the world. So I want to see what he builds. He's more of let the coordinators do the work as a coach, and I'll just be the organizer. So I want to see what he does with that. That's why it's the most surprising because he's not really like he's a head coach, but he's not a hands-on head coach. He's very good about drafting through, and I think it'd be great for getting these picks in. But I want to see a few years in if it's going to be more of one of those like great college quarterback, elite level, and then just doesn't work out in the NFL. And my necessary, we've talked about the BOB over there at Houston. Adam Gase was another necessary drop, of course, with that one. I don't think anybody's going to argue those two on that one. Any other things you guys want to throw in there before we move on?
Not really. No.
Love it. I love being told I'm
perfect.
Nailed
it. Well, speaking of perfect, where's that cat at?
The cat's roaming around a little bit. My dog's next to me. Usually she doesn't show up around when the dogs are sleeping. So I got my 2 little ones over here. So talk about some other things. Who's the biggest beneficiary of a coach's change? Whether it be a player setup and a whole team, just kind of who do you think is going to benefit the most from their new coach? And tell me what team it is, what we got going on. Charles, I want to start with you.
All right, my biggest first off, my biggest rider is probably going to be the New York Jets offensive run game. You look at Saleh brought in arguably one of the best offensive line coaches out there and run game coordinators in John Benton. Like everywhere he goes, he produces. Top 10 rushing squads from Houston to San Francisco. I think over the past 10 years he's had 7 top 10 rushing teams that he's coached, and it's like to have someone come in that helps establish the run game, establish the possession game, which is what I think the New York Jets are going to try to establish, will allow Saleh to just sit back and work his magic with that defense. I mean, what Saleh was able to do with the 49ers and that injury-depleted defense and turn them into a top 5 squad last year, I am very excited to see what New York's going to do with them. So, do you want to talk about the fallers as well, or you want to wait on that?
We'll be talking about that soon. Don't worry. I love your excitement. I love what you're bringing to the table in that one. We're talking about the ups right now, but remember, what goes up must come down. We'll talk about the down soon.
Exactly.
But I do love
just like my airplane, baby. Just like my airplane.
Oh, he's flying high right now. I love it. Yeah. But no, I love that take on that one. Whoever the running back ends up being, and I don't think it's going to be LaMichael Pirine out there with the Jets. But I think whoever it is definitely get a big boost in that scenario there. So I love that idea there with the mind. Bringing Slay in there, definitely exactly what they're looking for. Matt, who you got as one of the biggest risers due to this coaching change?
Yeah, as a 49er fan, I got to piggyback off of Charles a little bit, but I'm going to take a little bit different approach to this. You look at who Saleh is as a coach. He's a player's coach. And I think back to last offseason, the Washington football team and Ron Rivera, the culture change that he brought about in that otherwise very toxic environment. And you saw that team get a turnaround almost immediately. And you could see with the excitement from the 49ers players, both former and current, who played under Saleh, and you got some of the Jets players, you can hear their excitement. He's going to bring about a culture change that is going to be so good. It's going to be a complete 180 from what we saw from under Adam Gase. And so absolutely, I got to agree. The Jets hire is going to be the best as a team. Now I'm going to, as far as my player riser, I'm going to actually kind of disagree with Charles's earlier take just a little bit. I want to say that Justin Herbert is actually going to see a bit of a boost here with this new hire. They brought in Brandon Staley from the Rams. He's a defensive coordinator, but I'm looking more that comes from the offensive coordinator hiring. Joe Lombardi coming over from the Saints, working and learning from the greatest of all time, Sean Payton. Shout out to my Saints fan wife. I had to say that.
Right. I love it.
And, working with some elite weapons over there. Anthony Lynn was a fine coach, but he just couldn't get out of his own way. You look at the Herbert and Tyrod situation. Even after Herbert came in and almost beat the Chiefs in that first game, he was still saying, Tyrod's my guy when he's healthy. Tyrod's my guy when he's healthy. And then it finally took a few more weeks for him to turn that around and be like, okay, we'll go Herbert. And same thing with like the clock management and everything. I believe that this new head coach, Brandon Staley and Joe Lombardi, I think they're going to bring out the best in Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert is no stranger to picking up a new playbook. He did it in college a couple times. He did it on the fly with hardly any offseason last offseason. So I think he's going to do great this year.
No, I totally agree. I'm going to piggyback off that, actually. I want to talk about the Chargers a little bit, but in a different way here. I think Austin Eckler is the biggest beneficiary of that entire idea because who do they have over in New Orleans? Alvin Kamara. So imagine what they can scheme for Eckler, who is just not as great of an athlete as Kamara, different athlete, I would say, but definitely someone that can do well in that passing game, can do well in the running game. I think he's going to be the biggest beneficiary that we have of all of that with Joe Lombardi coming in. So I'm glad you brought that up with all of that going on. So I think he's going to be someone to be a sneaky mid-range RB1 with a low-end RB1 ceiling, floor, with that one. So that's why I see with him going forward.
Well, if you want to talk about, talking about like a single player, it's like I'm looking at Miles Sanders as well. It's like with Sirianni coming in, the Colts, they were top 10 run team and run pass ratio at eclipsing 45, almost 46% run to pass. And then you look at what the Eagles were last year, they were like barely 40% run to pass. Like he's going to come in and he's going to start to run, and everyone was just in love with how well Jonathan Taylor was catching the ball in the backfield last year. I think Miles Sanders is going to arguably be a top 5 running back in redraft this year.
That's a bold take to me, but I'm not a Miles Sanders shooter. I like him, and I want to like him more. There's just little things to his game that like drive me nuts. But if he's the bell cow, like he should have been, not splitting times with guys like Boston Scott or guys like Jordan Howard whenever it was there and things like that, I think that's definitely where he's going to shine. And I think if they give him that role and their defense can just step up a little bit and hold something off, that's where it's going to be the big change. I totally agree. The ceiling is there, but I will slightly disagree on the floor. But that's just because I'm not the biggest Miles Sanders guy in all reality.
Right.
But
hey, we're not all going to agree, man. We just kind of got to go with it.
Dude, it's all good. It's all good.
Uh-oh.
Oh, what's going on in that plane, man?
Oh, no, nothing. We're good.
Just want to be sure. Well, hopefully it doesn't go too down like that plane. Hopefully it's going to land nice and safe. But we're going to talk about the downs here a little bit. Who is some of the fallers? Who's taking the biggest hit with their NFL and fantasy value over there? Let's start with you, Charles, again. Let's go with this one.
Again, it goes back to San Francisco. I'm just picking on them. I'm sorry there, Matt. I know you're a San Fran fan, but that run game is going to take a huge hit without Benton there. And then going back to individual players, I think Deshaun Watson, or actually Brandon Cooks, is going to be the worst I mean, you bring in David Culley, he feels like he'll do for now type of hire. I mean, it's like how else does someone? It's like Culley everywhere he goes, he has a Gase effect. I mean, he was a wide receivers coach back in 2014 when the Kansas City Chiefs scored 0 touchdowns for wideouts. First time ever in a 16-game season that a team has not scored a single touchdown. The wide receivers haven't caught a single touchdown pass. Then from there he goes to Josh Allen and just doesn't utilize them properly as a rookie. And then, as we all know, we saw what the Ravens did, which is not that much through the air. So, that I think Brandon Cooks is like immediately seeing a downward spiral of his stock.
No, I can totally agree with that one, especially with the unknown with the quarterback situation there. So Brandon Cooks has always been a good player. Ever since he's been to the Saints, he's been over to LA. He's been bouncing around to New England for a little bit. He's been a little bit everywhere, but he's always been a good 1,000-yard player. But the problem is he's at the mercy of whoever's throwing him the ball, and he's seen a lot of different quarterbacks, and he doesn't want to leave. I mean, I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to move 8,000 times every year either. But, I definitely could see that. Matt, what do you think about this one?
All right, so I'm going to think a little bit outside the box on this one, maybe catch a couple people off guard here. But for me, my biggest fantasy follower, or not, I wouldn't say biggest, but he's up there. Currently, I'm in a holding pattern with the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, as far as acquiring him. I'm a little bit concerned there. Don't get me wrong. There's still a solid chance that Carson Wentz gets traded. Jalen Hurts is the starter. We talked about that whole situation on our last episode. But as with any new coaching regime, they're going to need to analyze exactly what they have in the backfield in both Wentz and Hurts and make a decision at quarterback. Who's to say they don't keep Wentz and give him another shot, And, let's not forget, they have the 6th pick in the NFL draft this year. That's plenty early to draft a quarterback if they don't like either of those guys in their system. I'm not saying that it's something that for sure is going to happen or anything, but you have to take that into consideration here, and there's a lot left to play out this offseason for Hurts, Wentz, and the Eagles. There's so much change going on, but I would be lying if I said there wasn't any concern there for Jalen Hurts for me.
No.
So again,
Yeah, he's definitely someone that could be falling. His ADP is so high in Superflex. He's going from the 3rd to 5th round. People are assuming he's going to be the quarterback, which he might be. He completely could be at this point. But that's the scary thing about drafting this early and talking about these potential situations. Because, when they were hiring a coach, they were saying, hey, Wentz is our guy. Get on board with that or get out of this interview. But now they're talking about trading Wentz still, and then Hurts. If he was a poor passer, I hate to say that, but under 56% passing each time, but he was a rookie. He can definitely get better. We've seen guys like Josh Allen do get better, but he's more of a running quarterback, which is, again, that's his skill set. He's athletic. He's young. He's where he should be. So it all depends what they want to do with him, how they use him. I don't see them taking a quarterback that early. But again, I didn't see Jordan Love going to the Packers last year. So anything can happen in that job. No one saw that one coming. Definitely not Rodgers. He played like a man possessed this year because of that. But that's a story for another day on that one. To talk about this one, I mean, my biggest faller, I do have to say, this is a tough one for me, honestly. I would have to say Matt Ryan, personally, because he never does well in a new coaching staff. His first year is always a downturn, and he's too old to keep doing this. That's the thing. He's efficient. He's fine, but I don't think he's going to have that high fantasy ceiling anymore. He's going to be with his weapons what he needs. We saw the games without Julio, how poor he was playing there, and they have the number 4 pick, if I'm correct on that one. Yeah, that they could 100% take a quarterback to either supplant him and then try to trade him away, get rid of under that contract, or just be like, you got one more year, dude. So he's taking the biggest hit with the new coaching staff coming in. They want to get their guy, put their stamp on the roster. Also, on top of that, they just getting up there in age, and not his play is starting to dip with the aging Julio there. Oh, it's getting dark down there, Carl.
No, we're all good. We're all good.
I just like to check in on you, buddy. I see. I see.
I had to go check on my steak. I wanted to make sure the flies didn't know that I wanted it medium rare. Unlike last time where it was medium.
Can't be having that. Medium rare or bust.
No.
Come on.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on those, Charles? What are your thoughts on the players that we spoke of?
Well, about Matt Ryan, it's like Arthur Smith is a run first out coach. So I believe it's like I'm in total agreement with that. With when it comes, I just went dark. It's all good. We'll be fine. I can continue this. No, I think Falcons might end up doing is Falcons will end up actually drafting a running back potentially in the first round because they don't like what they saw from Todd Gurley potentially. I think Todd Gurley still has 1 or 2 more years left if they actually pound the rock with him. But I agree like 100% what you said about Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan does not pick up a new playbook well. He's just that's just the way he is.
If you look back historically, it takes a year. Like the second years we get that leap from, it's almost like he's a new quarterback at the NFL every time he gets a new coordinator or a new coach, just because like he's not the quickest to pick up a playbook, and that's not a bad thing. It just is what it is. Sometimes of us are a little bit slow. He's still a good quarterback. It's just like the nuances of an offense and the things that make you elite. He's not going to have those traits for me. And if I'm looking for a quarterback in a one quarterback league, or even as my QB2, I want to have that upside sooner rather than later, or I want that youth involved with that one. So, speaking of these ups and downs, the lights turning on and off, this hot seat. What coaches do you think are on the hot seat in right now? Matt, I want to start with you. You've been a little quiet lately. Who's the hot seat coach you want to talk about?
So, I mean, I hear this question and my mind automatically goes to Chicago. You know, they were already on the hot seat this season. I mean, that's the obvious answer. Maybe I'll let you guys elaborate a little bit more on that. But I actually have a second team that might catch a couple people off guard. And I don't think this is like an immediate hot seat situation, but I think it's something that could develop this season. So hear me out on this. Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. Okay. Yes, they are a consistent playoff team. Okay. So don't get me wrong. Pete Carroll is a really good coach. Okay. But I mean, look at what's going on right now. You know, they recently fired offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer, and there's whisperings that it was because he wanted to let Russ cook some more. You know, and the kitchen got a little too hot there. Now you've got rumors swirling around of potential Russell Wilson trades. You know, things are getting weird over there, to say the least. You know, yes, the Seahawks went 12-4 this season. Yeah, they're still a consistently good playoff team, but, you know, they got bounced out first round of the playoffs. You know, the division around them is only getting better. And I feel like if Pete Carroll's game plan to go run heavy and really limit Russ's cooking, if that goes downhill this season and we see another early playoff exit or even missing the playoffs, I think we could be quickly talking about a Pete Carroll hot seat situation by the end of the season. So not immediate situation, but I think it's developing.
I mean, that's a really interesting way to think about it, but it could potentially happen with that division growing there. I personally don't see it that much, but I could definitely see by the end of season, if things keep getting worse and worse with him and Russ, that could be what I mean. Russ didn't cook too well the second half of the season. He lost his cookbook and was throwing out everything where he couldn't find anybody in place. But
worst cooks in America.
Yeah, right. But Matt over there in Chicago is an interesting take. I mean, he's been on the hot seat for a while. I think he's on his last leg. I think by midseason we'll know where he stands. I think moving on from Trubisky and trying to find a different quarterback is always like that last straw of trying to show with that. So I definitely that's someone to keep an eye on, monitor going through. And I feel like he's one of those coaches that he thinks he's smarter than he is.
It's true.
His plays are very cute,
100%.
but they have no purpose. Where they're more lateral than down the field, and that's where the biggest problem I see with a lot of his stuff. And he's got some great tools around him, or he just draws up plays that are too fancy for the players he has. So I think he's might be his problem. But maybe he gets a quarterback that can run those plays, and maybe it gets better. Yeah. But I definitely see him by week 6, 7, maybe by their bye week. That's whatever it is this season. That would be a potential coaching shift. Charles, let's see what you guys say. Who's your hot seat coach?
My hot seat coach, I actually have 2 as well. They're staying in the NFC West. Is Cliff Kingsbury and Kyle Shanahan. Those 2 are, in my mind, are on the hot seat.
Beating up on those 49ers today, man.
I know. Maybe it's just a Cowboys fan in me. It's I just no. Here's the thing with Kyle Shanahan, right? 3 out of the 4 years that he's been the head coach there, he's had a losing season. He had that one magical run to the Super Bowl, but other than that, he's been egregious at best. So, I mean, couple that with losing the offensive line coach, losing Saleh, it's there's a lot of people that are not going to be there. And the fact that you're even talking about getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo just makes you wonder, what's going to happen with them. If he starts off 0-4 or 0-3, I could definitely see him being axed early on in the season. Now, with Cliff Kingsbury, here's this guy who he was 35-40 at Texas Tech. only got the head coaching job because he had that Sean McVay magic touch. It's like he started off the season 5-2, which is great, but finished 8-8. And this is again, he had some in-game buffoonery, similar to that of Anthony Lynn. And we saw what happened with Anthony Lynn. He got fired. I mean, if he has another, ho-hum 500 record, 500 win percentage year, or like one game below 500 or one game above 500 in the depleted NFC West, they're going to get rid of him in my mind. I mean, you have arguably a top 3 quarterback in the league on your team, and if you can't win, and oh, by the way, you have Nuke just sitting there, catching everything. It's like, how can you not win with this? What are you doing wrong? Oh, well, it's his run game, but that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But yeah, no, that's where I'm sticking. Just a lawn dart, shot in the dark would also be Mike McCarthy at Dallas. If everyone's healthy and they aren't winning, Jerry Jones will axe them quicker than anything. Quicker than grass through a goose. So, that's just what
Cowboys fan always got to plug that Cowboys talk going in. I love it, though. I love where your head's at there. I totally agree. I think Cliff Kingsbury is an interesting one. He's out of that Nagy mold to me, where like his plays are too cute for his own good.
Yeah.
A lot of the time when you have the quarterback with the caliber of Kyler Murray sitting there, run Hopkins down the field sometimes. There was one game where he ran nothing but curl routes, and I'm like, what are you doing with this guy? He's arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, like actual wide receiver, not even for fantasy, just like as a wide receiver.
Straight up.
They got him at a discount, and they're acting like it because they're playing him at a discount.
Yeah, it's wild to me, but hopefully another year in. The problem, I think, the development of Kyler Murray has been the problem with this offense because he just makes some really boneheaded mistakes. And he's young, and he would still be a 2-sport athlete originally. So I think whoever they use, they need to get his mind dialed in because when Kyler's on, he is on. But I think his biggest mistake is like between his ears. It's not actually his play. With that, from watching a lot of Arizona games, I used to live out in Arizona, so something I like to keep an eye on is those Cardinals there. Another one out there, like I said, the 49ers, they're an interesting one. Any team, and that's what I keep thinking, that is looking for a new quarterback has a coach on the hot seat. That's kind of how this all works because, like, it didn't work with the guy that you have right there. And to segue this one, I'm going to go with Vic Fangio. That's out here in Denver because I don't think with the way they have it running right now, it's working. He's a defensive-minded coach, and their defense is horrendous. So that's one of the biggest things, and especially with a guy like Drew Lock. They've been calling for, like, Denver's a rough city to be playing in or to be coaching in without because we don't want to be mediocre.
Y'all are vicious.
We are out here. I mean, I'm not a Broncos fan, but I see it. That's the thing. I'm not, and they got a new GM working in there, and they told him, hey, if you want to get rid of the Lock, you're good to go. So that's another decision to be made. That's why they've been a lot of the trade talks for Watson and all that. But if it doesn't work, I think that's definitely one of the ones that is going to happen there. Because I feel like he's been the hot seat more than anything else because they got all these offensive weapons to try to like boat race all the teams in their division. But like they're still the worst of all of them at boat racing because they have no one to throw in the ball. Because they've got guys like Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant. They went on paid money to Melvin Gordon and his DUI-ness, but that's something that is another story. But yeah, I think he's
running backs in the. Sorry to interrupt. Something about running backs in the AFC West and getting DUIs, man.
They just need to stop. It is 2021, and there is Uber everywhere. Man, it's just
zero excuse for a DUI, man. It's like if I'm an NFL owner and I have a star running back go out and get a DUI, or anyone go out and get a DUI. You're cut. Bye.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that 100%. It just means just something again between the ears. That's the problem there. Going forward. So I think he's definitely one of the ones on the hot seat going into the new season, especially if they get a new quarterback. One thing I do want to point out, and I want you guys to comment on this one. I like to target skills players if I'm on like a break point that have a coach on the hot seat, because those skills players are going to get work. Because that coach can't lose. So no matter what game, they're not going to be out of it, and they're going to start chucking it. So if like I'm on like a break point, I'm like, oh, do I go Cortland Sutton or a guy like Tyler Boyd? I'm going to go Cortland Sutton, not just because I think he's a better player, but because like that's how I like have those lines and things like that. What do you guys think of that for a fantasy perspective? To kind of like not like put too much merit on it, but like as like a tiebreaker there. Matt, I'll start with you, bud.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, you look at these coaches on the hot seat, and yeah, they're going to, if they're smart, they're going to do everything they can to try to stick around. Unless you're Adam Gase, then you do everything you can to get fired, and they still don't fire you until late in the season. But anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah, I mean, these coaches, they're just going to feed their weapons to try to stay alive here. And yeah, absolutely. So as a tiebreaker, like you said, I think that's perfect.
Charles, where's your head at on this one?
I gotta agree with you. And poor Adam Gase, we're just beating that dead horse. That's gonna be the gift that keeps on giving, especially if Sam Darnold turns out to be especially if Sam Darnold ends up turning out to be a even just an average NFL quarterback. If he turns out to be an average NFL quarterback, it'll just put the nail in the coffin that Adam Gase should never coach again in the NFL. But don't worry.
He'll find a job somehow, though.
Yeah, someone will bring him back. But no, I agree with you on that. It's like if I'm an NFL coach, it's similar to the players that are in the contract year. If they're in the contract year, they're going to ball out. They're going to do everything they can to win, and that's the kind of mindset that the coach on the hot seat has. It's like they're going to do everything in the realm of possibilities to win the ball game. And if that means chucking it 55 times to whatever wide receiver you have out there, maybe like a Darnell Mooney, if you will, that's a segue for a little later on. But they're going to do everything they can to win.
Oh, I love the Mooney talk. Don't get me going on that one. That's a whole nother pod we'll have pretty soon. I can guarantee that one.
Rocket ship to the moon.
We'll be going to the moon on this one. Yeah, we'll be getting some of those in the upcoming weeks. Yeah. But guys, I loved it. Thank you guys so much for all this great talk. I'm sure our listeners are taking a lot of notes, getting their fantasy game up to the next level and their pure NFL knowledge there. But I'm going to let you guys plug your stuff right now. Charles, I'm going to let you plug what you got going on. Where can we find your work?
Well, obviously, you can always find me right there. It says it at @HeadyFootball_football, my man. All the listeners out there, I just dropped a little bombshell for everyone concerning Darnell Mooney. I just published it on the pregamehq.com. So go check that out. I'm super high on this guy. It's like even if they bring in Sam Darnold as their quarterback, I think he's going to improve next year. So that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing, and just keep grinding, keep hustling.
Love it, man. He's super high on this guy, and he's on a plane right now. So he's heading to the moon with this guy, like we were talking about. Matt, where can we find you, bud?
Yeah, so as you can see, I'm at PeakFF9 on Twitter. I'm still working out, doing a Dynasty wide receiver this or that article that I'll be dropping soon. So I'm working on that. I'm always dropping Dynasty trade polls. I'm hot into Dynasty trades right now. I'm dropping them every day. So if you want to get a little idea of who I'm targeting there in my Dynasty leagues, you can look at that. I'm going to be dropping my first ever set of Dynasty rankings by position here shortly. So check that out. Give me a follow. And finally, I got to sit down with our awesome leader at Nuggy Wuggy at the Pregame HQ to discuss top 24 PPR wide receivers for 2020. And that video is going to be coming out pretty soon. So follow me at PeakFF9, follow our team at the Pregame HQ_, and you'll find all that stuff.
Speaking of Matt, I'm curious to see.
Yeah. Sorry.
What's up?
Matt, I'm curious to see which guys that I actually had right. It's like I know you pushed that thing out there about which teams had top 24, top 3, top 2. I can't wait to see exactly. Well, I actually do know it. That's surprising, man. Good work.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, we got, like I said, we got some great work over here. Got some geniuses going on. We're flying high. It's running hot and heavy. You can find me at right down here, KidFlashFF, right down there for you guys. I'm here every single Monday talking to some of our geniuses over here and some other guests going on. But thank you all so much for tuning in. I will talk to you guys next week. For Charles, for my buddy over here, that side, Matt, I'm CJ Krause. I'll talk to you later.